Hello everyone, this would be the second video for parallel lines, and today we're briefly just going to go over how to solve questions based on given a parallel equation line and a what we call a testing point that goes through. So I want to start off by going over the answer from yesterday, and I believe some of you guys got this yesterday when we talked about it. It's the slope is 7 over 4, and yes, they are both going to be parallel. And here's how we can figure this out. Number one, we can probably just plot these, right? So 6 comma 2 and 2 comma negative 5. Well, that's the line that we have. And 4 comma negative 3 down here, and 8 comma, and I believe that's a 4. So that's right there. So if I were to draw these two lines like this, they do turn out to be parallel. Of course, it's really hard to tell by handwriting it. So let's do it mathematically by number-wise because we like numbers. It's more quantitative to analyze. So that's y2. I'm sorry, that was the first y value. So I'm going to keep it consistent. This would be your y2 and this would be your y1. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is always going to be your slope. So 2 minus negative 5 over 6 minus 2. Now this entire thing just becomes 7, and 6 minus 2 becomes a 4. It's 6 minus 2 because that's 6 and that's 2, x2 minus x1. Now if you do the same thing for down here, what we get is we get 4 minus negative 3 over 8 minus 4. So I believe that also turns out to be 7 over 4. Because the slopes are the same, that's the one thing I told you yesterday that I need you to understand. Slopes are equal, then the lines are parallel. That's what I need you to understand. So today what we're going to jump into is something called a slope-intercept form, and I need all of you guys to understand what m value is and what b value is and what they represent. So the m value represents slope, and b value represents what we call a y-intercept. So a slope is something that we have been talking about. It's the rise over run. And the y-intercept is where it hits the y-axis on a given x or y scale. So you don't really have to worry about the y-intercept, but what I need you to understand is that the slope is equal, okay, this thing that I've just told you about, when the lines are parallel. So slopes are equal when that happens. Now, first of all, if I'm giving you a slope-intercept form, you should be able to understand what slope is going to be. So for instance, for these four questions that you see, notice how I'm giving it to you in a y equals, I'm going to highlight this in m as red, and mx plus b. Alright, so whatever is in front of x is the slope, right? So that is the slope that I would like you to find out. And it's pretty clear as to what slopes are for number 1 through 4. Pause the video and tell me, identify what the slopes are going to be for 1 through 4. So for 1 through 4, all the values in front of x. So for example, number 2, negative 2 over 3, 4, and negative 10 over 3, they're all called slopes. Okay, so if I ask you to find the slope in a given equation, y equals mx plus b, you should have no problem whatsoever. Now we're going to get to a little bit of a challenging question. Okay, so find the equation in a standard form with a line parallel to y is equal to 2 over 3 x minus 1 passing through the point 3 comma negative 1. Alright, so we're going to be given an equation, like I said, and passing through something called a point. Now this, 2 over 3x minus 1. What is the slope of that equation? It's 2 over 3. And we're talking about finding the equation in a standard form, which is y equals mx plus b. So your equation should look something like that, your answer. Parallel lines means we have the same slope. So which means is that I'm going to put 2 over 3 as my slope. So y equals 2 over 3x plus b. Now the problem is, what is my y-intercept of the equation? Now that's something that you need to figure out. And the whole purpose of why they give you this point in the first place is for you to utilize that to find out what the y-intercept is going to be. So for example, for this one, I'm just going to use the point 3 comma negative 1 and literally just plug it into this equation, and that's going to give us our answer. So we have negative 1 is equal to 2 over 3 times 3 plus b. Now, if you're wondering what I just did, we have the x value as 3, and we have the y value as negative 1. Please remember that the coordinate always comes in the format of x first and then y second. So whatever the value is in first, that's your x value, and whatever value is second, that's your y value. So I'm going to plug 3 for my x, and I'm going to plug negative 1 for my y, and that's exactly what I just did right there. So what's my next step? Just plug in the coordinates. Plug in the xy coordinate into the equation. See, now what happens is if you plug everything in, everything just becomes numbers, and only letter that's left is b. So now I'm going to solve. Negative 1 is equal to 2 over 3 times 3. Now you can use a calculator for that, but if you know how to multiply the denominator with the number that we're or multiplying a fraction with a integer, if the denominator and the number that you're multiplying with itself is the same, you can simply just cancel these out. And so you get negative 1 is equal to 2 plus b, and that's the equation. Subtract 2 on both ends, and what I end up getting is that negative 3 is equal to b. Okay, so then that means my equation here would be y is equal to 2 over 3x, because the slope needs to be the same as my original question. But my y-intercept would just be minus 3. Okay, and that's going to be my answer. Alright, so here, I'm going to show you something on a calculator to prove my point. And so, let's say that you're given a graphing calculator, and for those of you who do not have a graphing calculator, do not worry. If you just go to the website that I provided for you up here, nj.testnab.com, if you keep on clicking guess, next, 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 you should be able to see this screen right here. This is like an online testing source for NJSLAs. And you can just click on this button at the top, which will get you an access to a free calculator. And so you can play around with this, and here what I'm gonna actually do is I'm just going to show you what parallel lines will look like on a graphing calculator. So here's what you're gonna do. On the home screen, press y is equal to, and you have all of these y1, y2, all blah blah blah, and I want you to just type these questions in here. Type the equation y equals 2 over 3x minus 1, y equals 2 over 3x minus 3. And once you do that, so I'm going to say 2 over 3x minus 1. For those of you who don't know where x is right beneath mode. Okay, or if you see where the green button is, alpha, the green right of alpha is the x, comma, t, theta, comma, n. You're just going to press that and you're going to get an x. The next one is 2 over 3x. I believe it was minus 3. Just to verify, we have a y-intercept of minus 1 and minus 3. Alright, so once we have the equations put in, you're just going to press graph. And here are the two lines that you're going to see. Now notice how they are very nice and straight, and they certainly do look parallel to me. So that's how I know I did this question correctly. Usually, if the slopes are going to be correct, they're going to be the correct answer. The y-intercept, therefore, you need to be able to know whether or not it goes through the value that's concentrated here, which is at 3 comma negative 1. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just first erase the first line and just press graph. So this is the equation that we found out. If you guys press second, which is the blue button right here, and press trace, which is left button of the graph, so press trace, and if you press just value, now I'm gonna type in x to be, I think 1. Actually, wait a minute. Oh, it was 3 comma negative 1. So here's let me just try this again. So we're gonna press second, trace one more time, press value, that's number 1, and then type in 3 for me and see what you get. Now the calculator, what it does is that it calculates the y value at that given x. So when I type in x is 3, y just becomes negative 1. So I know that this graph goes through those x and y coordinate, and there we go. We have it. We have a parallel line that also goes through this point. Okay, so today what you're going to be working on are a couple questions like these, but before you end the session for today, I would like you to finish this up, and then please tell me the answer, which is the equation of the line that is parallel to this, so obviously having the same slope, and also going through this coordinate. Alright, thank you very much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.